Hello, welcome. Going to take a look at a couple toys and tie-in products based on the A-Team television show that ran from 1983 to 1987. The show is about a Army Special Forces unit that was court-martialed for a crime they didn't commit. They escaped from prison, and throughout the show they're on the run. They're usually just one step ahead of Colonel Lynch that's chasing after them, but each episode was really about them helping somebody. So somebody would manage to get in contact with them when they needed help only the A-Team could provide, something I guess law enforcement couldn't. So the A-Team would show up, typically come up with a plan, fire a lot of bullets, never actually killing anyone, beat them up, blow up some cars. Really, they'd have a lot of explosions blowing up something. And that was basically the whole show. So what you're looking at here is called the Combat Headquarters set. This is from Galoob. And I do have the figures I'm going to introduce one at a time, but this is most of the set. There's a few things missing. There should be a tripod for this gun, a bazooka, TNT detonator, and there's another. These are supposed to be like, I guess, I don't know if it's supposed to be sandbags or broken bricks, but there's also like a sandbag. Well, it looks just like this, only it's like two wall pieces that are supposed to mimic sandbags. And there's an American flag that I don't have here, which can be put here or on this. It's quite a bit for this little display here. It's supposed to be a campsite, and I guess if you want to position things realistically, you wouldn't want them where there are trees drawn. This here is a tent. It's a piece of cardboard with two plastic ends. It also came with two parachutes, which is what you see over here, one of them. It's a really cheaply made parachute, possibly the worst parachute I've ever seen for a toy line. It's just the string is just taped. It just has Scotch tape. I put new tape on because it mostly fallen off, but this one actually is the original tape here still. That's all it is a bunch of strings. It's enough to catch some air, but yeah, it's really cheaply made. Oh yeah, I'm also missing an oar for the boat, the raft. But this is kind of unusual for the A-Team. It's mostly just a generic set. I don't recall them camping out, even though they're on the run. This isn't stuff you typically like see in the show, except for some guns. Now, the figures themselves very much resemble G.I. Joe type figures. So, first up is the leader. This is John Smith, also known as Hannibal, played by George Peppard. So, he's the guy with the plan. At the end of the show, he often says, "I love it when a plan comes together." Next up is Templeton Peck. His nickname is usually Face, although I think his full nickname is really Face Man. They just call him Face. He's played by Dirk Benedict. Now, Dirk Benedict is known on television before the A-Team for Battlestar Galactica. He was Starbuck. George Peppard didn't really... He appeared like on TV shows, but didn't have his own show. He's mostly in movies. And up next is H.M. Murdoch. HM stands for Howling Mad. He's the team's pilot. Yeah, I forgot to mention, he's basically a con man face. He gets the team what they need, and Murdoch's the pilot. Typically flies helicopters. He's played by Dwight Schultz. This was basically his first big role, A-Team. He'd later appear on Star Trek The Next Generation. It's just, was on one of the main crew, but he had a reoccurring role. And last up, the big broad shoulders, he looks a bit different than these other figures, is B.A. Baracus, B.A. short for Bad Attitude, and he was played by Mr. T, who at that time had already appeared in Rocky 3, so he was well known by then. Once the A-Team started, he also eventually, that same year, had his own cartoon, just like a group of gymnasts, I guess, young gymnasts. Kind of an odd show. He also had his own breakfast cereal. He appeared in some WWF wrestling. And It's likely you know who Mr. T is. He's still around. He was on Dancing with the Stars not too long ago. He also had a reality TV show in 2006. So he's done a lot of things. Really iconic character from the 80s. Well, iconic person, but BA kind of, it's kind of hard to differentiate BA from Mr. T. I mean, he's kind of playing himself more or less. So these Galoob toys, like I said, they look a lot like G.I. Joe toys, and I have a G.I. Joe here for comparison. It's Gung Ho. They're all 3 3/4 inches, and like G.I. Joe, they have the holes on the end so you could put them in pegs. I don't think Galoob toys had the pegs, but they may have done that just so people would play with them with their G.I. Joes. And I mean, they're very much similar. They have the rubber band inside there holding them together, just like G.I. Joes do. This one's really tight because I replaced it. But although this seems like it's completely copying G.I. Joe, Galoob actually copied G.I. Joe before this. And these are essentially repaints with new heads for a line of toys Galoob made in 1982. Those were General Patch versus Evil Enemy. So those were very much like a G.I. Joe line. And really, they sold these accessories with those action figures. So they just took everything they already had made, got the A-Team license, and slapped everything together. And now, these figures came with this set. You could also buy them in a 4-pack of just the action figures. And they came with vehicles as well. You could buy the vehicle that would come with the figure. And typically, from what I could tell with the pictures online, it's usually the same exact figure. There are some variant colors that exist, but most of the pictures appear to be these exact figures packaged with a vehicle. And these are kind of odd outfits. You wouldn't see them dressed like this in the TV show. Typically they had similar outfits each week. BA I'll show you in a sec because I have a 6-inch figure of him that looks like what he'd look like on the show. Murdoch, being a pilot, often wore like a bomber jacket, a brown leather jacket. Face, he's always the best dressed. I want to say, though, his typical outfit would have been a black leather jacket. He also sometimes drove a Corvette. And Hannibal, kind of like an off-white jacket. He always smoked a cigar. He's not smoking one here, though. Alright, so the 6-inch, they did make a 6-inch line. I only have BA. And you can see this is what he typically wear, all the gold chains, which is what Mr. T is also known for. He's wearing a belt accessory here. I don't know if I have everything. Came with a gun. And then it came with a toolbox. I guess I failed to mention his role in the team. He's basically, he drives the van. He's a mechanic. Obviously the muscle of the team, the big guy. So this figure came with a toolbox. Somewhat realistic. It's a pull-out tray. And quite a few tools. Wrench, hammer, socket wrench, sockets. And can't take them off and attach them, but these are, molded like sockets. A saw, a drill. It's a lot of stuff, just like you'd need to work on a car. So yeah, like I said, I only have this guy. They actually made the 4 in 6-inch, and they made the reporter Amy Allen. All I have here is a picture. This is part of the packaging from the 6-inch figures. On the backing, they'd have a picture of each character. It's all the same packaging. So I guess I cut out the pictures. I couldn't find the other ones, but I do have her. So yeah, sometimes on the show, they'd have a person helping them out. So Amy Allen was the first, basically 5th character. And then after, I guess maybe season 2, they had a different reporter. And later they added some other guy to the team, special effects expert. Right, so these are the main Galoob toys I have. They made a whole variety. Like I said, there were vehicles. Although Murdoch often flew a helicopter, they packaged him with a jet for one toy, and Face was packaged with his Corvette, BA, I believe with the van. But they also made an armored car that I believe Hannibal came with. Sometimes they would take a regular car and kind of put armor around it. Basically, that's what part of their plan. They'd often just build things on the fly. And they made a boat as well. There's a wide range of toys, but the odd thing, there's also bad guys to fight. So they made a 4-pack so that these 4 had someone to fight. And this really, to me, is bizarre to make it seem like even more of a copycat of G.I. Joe. They named the bad guys after snakes. So the bad guys' names are Cobra, Viper, Python, and Rattler. I mean, Cobra, that's who G.I. Joe fought, and that's the bad guy's name. I don't know, I think they could have done a little better job of not seeming so obvious. Alright, so let me try to slide these a bit out of the way. So that's it for toys. I know it's kind of the main thing. These other things might be a little boring. Partially because they don't work, the electronics ones. I'll show you 2 electronics toys, but neither one of them actually moves. This is just a little 18 van, the GMC van, made by Ertl. As you can tell, it's a wired kind of remote control vehicle. It doesn't work. It made a little noise earlier, just kind of slight hum, but I think the motor's basically dead inside. It just runs on 1 AA battery, so you press a button to go forward or reverse. And this is a Stomper. I do have a bunch of Stompers. I haven't tested any other ones. This one does not work, unfortunately. The headlights do work, though. So, again, probably just the motor. It's so old they don't work anymore. But the headlights turn on. I don't know how well you'll see it. And it's basically just the 18 van, though it's not all black. They did some different coloring. Not entirely sure why, but they did. And the van doesn't normally have a sunroof on it either, so they made some changes. So Stompers, if you're not familiar with them, you just turn them on and they go, basically just go forward, like over. You can put out, they have like, they sold some tracks and stuff, or objects you could kind of like drive over. This one I don't think has interchangeable tires. I guess this one's not, I call it a Stomper. You know, and it looks just like one, but I don't know. I guess I should have double checked. It is made by LJN. I think made the Stompers, but I could be wrong. I'll double check and just add it to the video if I'm wrong. They're calling it a Rough Rider here, but you know, it's very, very, very similar to a Stomper, so I think it is part of the line. It's just looking underneath. These things, they pop off. Really, this looks exactly like a Stomper, so I think it is, but it's a variation on them. The Stompers have interchangeable tires, different rubber types, like a soft type to help them drive over things. Alright, so next up, Colorforms. I talked about Colorforms in the Batman stuff video that was kind of lame, I guess. Hardly anyone watched that. So, Colorforms, very common in the 80s. Almost anything was licensed to be on Colorforms. It's just a sort of a toy, but it's just a set of essentially like decals, though. You can peel them off and on. They just stick, and these aren't going to stick anymore, I don't think. I'll just leave them here. But you just peel them off of this and set up a scene. So that's all it is putting together a scene. As you can see kind of on this manual, it's just a picture of what they set up. So it's a picture of the docks, basically a warehouse fire, the 18 van. It's kind of odd the cover they chose. They went with B.A. Hannibal and Amy rather than Face and Murdoch, nowhere to be seen. Alright, next up, 18 board game from Parker Brothers. You'll notice a lot of the time B.A. is front and center, probably because Mr. T is the best known actor at the time, I guess, in the show. I mean, he's the marketing tool, I guess. They figure put him front and center, they'll sell more. because you'll see in a second on another object that they really gave another character the shaft. But even here is a big selling point, color photo of BA inside. This is an odd game, really, the whole setup. I don't recall exactly how it plays. I don't recall playing it, but reading the instructions, just the whole story setup is unusual for A-Team. So it says here, BA lends a hand in the race for the formula. You don't actually play as BA, but the whole game kind of revolves around him. Now, I'll show you the back before I open it. Not much to it. I'm going to show you all the pieces anyway. So the board is unfortunately not too interesting. Doesn't quite fit all in frame, but there's not a lot to it. It's just a big circle in the middle. Turn it this way. There's a picture of the van here. However, based on the story in the manual, they're on an island, and you can kind of see there's water on the edges. And maybe a bridge comes to the island, or maybe they took the van on a boat, but supposedly they're on this island. And you can see BA is pictured on the board in various places, and he's the only character on the board. He's also throughout the cards that appear here. Alright, here's the big BA color photo they're advertising. Get a picture of BA. So he's also on the cards. No one else is on these cards. BA gives you a shove, move ahead 3 extra spaces. It's another one of those. BA smooths the way, roll again. So what he's doing is he's helping the player or the rest of his team around the board. There are 2 dice, a red and a green, and like I said, 4 character pieces. So instead of BA, they went with Amy. Of course, you got Hannibal, Face, and Murdoch. And they have these notches. You may have just seen it pull this off. It's like a top secret file. I guess you acquire it in the game and then move around the board with it. Just slides into the notch. So I'll read you a little of the story. I will scan this and put it on my blog. I'll leave a link in the video description if you want to read the whole thing. It's ridiculous. Doesn't seem like a mission the A-Team would take. Here it is. The top secret formula for a famous soft drink has been stolen by a crafty madman and his evil band. They are holding it for ransom at the island fortress from which they operate. The internationally renowned company that owns the formula has hired the A-Team to go into the fortress and retrieve it before the public and Wall Street find out about it. The madman knows that the A-Team is onto him, so he has set up a deadly game which they must play once inside the fortress. Dressed in outfits to look like fortress guards, the A-Team members must work alone to find the formula. But Hannibal is crafty too. He has sent BA in ahead of the others to infiltrate. BA knows where it's at, that's in quotations, where it's at, and so he'll be there to help you in your mission. Good luck. So it says they're dressed like the guards, but they're not. I was just talking about what they wore in the show, and you can kind of see Face does have a black jacket on, and there's Hannibal's jacket. I guess it's more of a khaki. So the odd thing is, it doesn't tell you what he's infiltrated. Infiltrated the island, infiltrated the group. Because if BA stands out, I can't see him infiltrating a group. It would have made more sense if they sent Face ahead, because he's the con man. He can talk his way into anything. But this was just a whole way to make BA the star. Though, like I said, the story is odd in that it doesn't seem like a mission the A-Team would be hired for. They're typically helping like the everyday man that just needs, help defending himself because he's too weak or the law won't help him. But they were hired by a soft drink company in this game. It's really strange. I expect it wasn't too popular, but I don't really know. Right, I don't have much else. 2 things, but they aren't really interesting, especially this. This is the puzzle and maze book. Yeah, move it up here. We're in a fine room, but what surprises me here is that it's very, very simplistic. I don't know the ages that it's for. Doesn't say, but I would have been 8 when the show first aired, and I think this would have been too easy for an 8-year-old, at least some of it. Maybe not. I mean, I guess it's just not very consistent. Like, this is the one that really stands out. What does the A-Team use to get around? Well, a van. They even have a picture of a van, and the answer's right there. Kind of hard to miss when you're looking at it. So, some very simple things and mazes, just little word games. Characters are drawn really funny. I guess they kind of look like them, but it's certainly not a perfect match. There's a dog. I don't think they had a dog. Anyway, last up is a stamp set. Heck, they'd slap a license on anything in the 80s. So they're just stamps. I mean, basically it was like a blister pack, so these little explosive marks are where the stamps sit. The funny thing here is there's no face. Instead you get 2 BA stamps. Of course, he's the only character here drawn on the cover, so yeah, it's odd because of what you're supposed to do with the stamps. 10 mini posters, but they're all the same, and they're all meant to have 4 characters stamped on them. Instead, I just kind of made a mess here when I was younger. Yeah, they have 2 people in a helicopter, 2 people in a van, but if you use all the stamps, you're going to have 2 BAs in the picture. Which is what I did. That's all there is to it. I do have some blank ones. This is my second attempt filming the video, so I already covered up one, but it looks like I still have a bunch of blanks left. And I do indeed have a stamp pad, or an ink pad, because these stamps are all dried out, of course. They're quite old. All these items I'm showing you would be from pretty much 83 to 84, maybe 85. So I'll stamp them for you, but I'm going to have 2 BAs. So this one's Murdoch. Make him the pilot. Guess I'll put Hannibal and the chopper with him. The thing with BA on the show, he refuses to fly, but they often drug him and then just drag him onto the helicopter or plane, and then he wakes up after they've landed and he's clueless as to what happened. I'll put BA looking at himself right here, and BA looking forward driving. Oh, they're nice stamps actually. I mean, I could use them on other things for fun, but it's just so bizarre that you have a team of 4 main characters and they opt to ditch one to have 2 BAs. Because really, I mean, there's no need to have them looking 2 different directions. It's kind of silly. But that's what they did. They put BA or Mr. T as the face of just about everything. All the licensed products. So that's all I have. Thanks for watching.